Chris is a member of the ACT Legislative Assembly, and before being elected he was working as an education advocate in the early childhood sector. He previously worked in the federal and ACT governments with a focus on education. And after the Chief Minister, Andrew Barr, Chris is the second only openly gay member of the ACT Legislative Assembly. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Veronica. And I too would like to acknowledge traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, and all people, and pay my respect to elders past, present and future. And I'd like to thank Forum Australia for the opportunity to speak today in my home electorate. I'm a Woden boy myself, and to talk about marriage equality, which is a really topical issue. It's one that's been considerably debated, including the election last year where I was elected. I door knocked about 25,000 doors, and it came up quite a lot. I wasn't going out there to talk about that issue, but it certainly came up quite a bit. And this topic today, adapting to marriage equality, really forces us to think about the issue in perhaps a somewhat different way. And we've heard just a very eloquent description of the legal ramifications of marriage equality from Dr. Wood. But in my opening comments, I wanted to discuss more of the social and perhaps some of the political consequences that might arise from marriage equality being enacted by the Commonwealth Parliament. And I'll start today by focusing on what will and what won't happen after marriage equality is enacted into law. As we've heard, under law, the first thing that will happen is that people from the LGBTIQ community, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, intersex and queer community, will be recognised simply as people who have the legal right to marry. For individuals that are involved, the sense of loss, hurt, discrimination that they've experienced will be mitigated. These are people who have been waiting years and often decades to have their commitment to one another recognised under our national laws. And this probably means that in most cases these people have had quite a long time to think about their decision to marry. They're not going to be rushing into it. So the main impact of marriage equality is that people will be married, regardless of sexuality or gender. And in the future, more people will be married. They won't have to go overseas to have their marriage recognised. They'll do it here at home with their friends and family, spending their money here and helping to stimulate the economy. And to throw out a bit of a cliche, you can probably imagine that these weddings are pretty fabulous and no doubt very expensive. This will no doubt make them very happy and their families and friends as well. There are, of course, other benefits to marriage equality and marriage more generally, and we've too long to have heard the heartbreaking difficulties that same-sex and other couples face in being recognised, whether it's as their partners, next of kin or otherwise, and this can have very significant financial and emotional implications. So marriage equality might provide access to things like health information in an emergency. Some couples will decide not to get married, and that's their choice, and they may also continue to live happy lives. So all of this probably sounds very obvious, but the reason I've started here is because I believe that the main impact of marriage equality will be to benefit those who have not been able to get married, and they now can. For most others, this reform will have very little day-to-day impact because they already can marry, and this change simply removes the discrimination that exists in the law and allows people to marry. And so most people will hear about the change when marriage equality is enacted, and I believe life will go on. There won't be a threat to democracy, as one federal MP proclaimed the other week. The underpinnings of the family institution won't be undone. There won't be a lost generation of children. No doubt some people will feel aggrieved, though, as a result of these changes. And during the campaign, I met a fellow who lives down the street from me who told me up front that he feels like his marriage would be undermined by marriage equality. And I don't quite understand why he thinks that might be the case, because a study of every US state between 1989 and 2009 found that marriage equality did not translate into fewer heterosexual marriages. I hope that when marriage equality is achieved, the unfounded fear that the debate on this issue has stirred up will end, but I think probably it will continue. in the short term at least. And then this will mostly be from the conservative side of the debate. But there is a reason for conservatives to be optimistic. Marriage is actually one of the most conservative institutions in our society, and by enabling all people to access it, I believe this will actually strengthen the institution and not undermine it. As David Cameron, Conservative Party leader and former British Prime Minister, said upon legislating marriage equality in the United Kingdom, he said that Conservatives believe in the ties that bind us. Society is stronger when we make vows to each other and when we support each other. He said that I don't support marriage in spite of being a Conservative, I support it because I am a Conservative. Now, I am not a Conservative, by the way. I'm a progressive, but I fundamentally share the notion that marriage equality can help to strengthen our society for all of us. And the evidence is in favour of this argument. My federal Labor colleague, the member for Fenner, Dr. Andrew Lee, has recently pointed out in his book, Battlers and Billionaires, that de facto relationships are less stable than that of married couples. And a US survey found out that at the time of their birth, a large majority of de facto partners intended to stay together, but by the time their child had turned 5, less than a fifth had remained together. As Andrew Lee sums up, the majority of children born out to de facto relationships will have a new half-sibling before they enter primary school. On the other hand, the benefits of marriage and the institution of marriage are fairly well documented. Some opponents of same-sex marriage, such as Kevin Andrews, former Minister of Families and Social Services, even cites studies showing the greater propensity of married people to volunteer, vote and survive cancer as a justification for the continued importance of marriage. It's hard to believe that Kevin Andrews opposes marriage equality when it can be equally expected that these same benefits would apply to those in the LGBTIQ community if they too were married. Why wouldn't we want all of those people to have the benefits? Now, Kevin Andrews has been a long-term campaigner to arrest Australia's increasing divorce rate. And when he was minister, he even provided vouchers to married couples to seek counselling and avoid divorce. But perhaps one thing he should have done was to support marriage equality, because research from Scandinavia and Massachusetts, which are two jurisdictions that have had same-sex marriage for a number of years, actually shows that the long-term stability of marriage was increased, and in fact it decreased the overall divorce rate over time. But the consequence of all these benefits are not just for the individual, they are for the whole of society. We all benefit from an inclusive society, and when we have greater inclusion of all people, we see better outcomes across a whole range of areas in health, education, social welfare. Australian evidence strongly supports the proposition that marriage equality is related to improved health outcomes. And these are outcomes that we all pay for through our universal healthcare system. Now, I'm very hopeful that marriage equality, in providing acceptance and recognition of same-sex marriage, will be a positive force for the inclusion of LGBTIQ people in our society. It's an important milestone for inclusion and acceptance, but despite the benefits of marriage equality, it will not in itself end the discrimination against members of the LGBTIQ community. Those people are far more likely to experience depression and anxiety. The high rates of mental illness and suicide won't end overnight, nor will the discrimination at work or bullying in our schools. If we could only legislate for social discrimination as well as legal discrimination, we could be living in a much better society. But look, a Roy Morgan poll from June last year found that more than a fifth of Australians still believe that homosexuality is immoral. So that is not going to be changed simply by changing the law. And when this manifests in bullying in our schools, it can have deadly consequences. And we've seen that in the recent death of the Queensland teenager Tyrone Unsworth, who took his life as a result of violent bullying he faced from his peers as a result of his sexuality. But interestingly, the Morgan polling also found that in closed religious communities, recent non-Western immigrants and rural communities have overall negative views of homosexuality and homosexuals. So beyond marriage equality, the community has a long way to go to improve understanding, acceptance of diversity and inclusion across all parts of our societies and institutions. And this means that these groups are often the hardest to reach, facing language, geographical and cultural barriers. and communities that may simply never had contact with the broader LGBTI community in their day-to-day life. And I see an attitudinal shift occurring as well, which I think is positive through generational change, as younger people particularly engage in conversations with older Australians who have grown up in an age where homosexuality was heavily discriminated against in a range of forms other than marriage. Further work will continue to address these areas and will become a greater focus of governments, and that will happen, and it's already happening. The ACT government has appointed an LGBTIQ advisory council to advise on the way forward in relation to inclusion more generally. So in conclusion, I believe that the LGBTI community will see the biggest change for marriage equality. For most others, life will continue, but there may be a range of other benefits to society, including strengthening the institution of marriage. Despite these benefits, beyond marriage equality, there is still a significant amount of discrimination in the community, and that will continue. But I believe that marriage equality is a big positive step towards inclusion. The continued shift in attitude on this issue will come from personal communication and through respectful community dialogue on these issues, such as at this forum here tonight. So thank you, and I look forward to answering some of your questions.
Now there's a practiced politician. He didn't even speak over time. Thanks, Chris.